Welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute devotional podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse. Broadcast from the ever-beautiful Sharonville, Ohio, on the sunny side of Cincinnati. Hey there, friends. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio. This is your home for organic Bible study that's fresh and delicious. And this is what we like to call the Bible Bistro. This is the place where students of the Bible come in and ask, "Hey, Dave, what is today's dainty?" Well, I'm going to tell you, today's dainty is mercy, and we'll get to that in just a second. But let me tell you, we're studying Psalm 78. We did the first half last week. We studied verses 1 through 37, and this week we're going to look at verses 38 through 72. I think it's 72. We're going to finish off Psalm 78 this week, but not before we dig into some really good stuff. Speaking of good stuff, if you had a chance, I hope you have. If you haven't, go out and get my book, Christianity to the Life. It's a book that I've edited. I didn't write it. I wrote the introduction, but not the main material. The main material was written by a pastor by the name of Cotton Mather. Cotton Mather lived back in the 17th and 18th centuries, and he wrote a lot of material, and one of those things was a little book called Christianity to the Life. And I've edited it and republished it with the permission of the folks that held the copyright to it. And so I'd like for you to go out and find it, get it. It's very encouraging. I'm telling you, it'll help your Christian walk. It's a really good book. It's available on Amazon in paperback and Kindle form. Today we're looking at verses 38 through 44, and now I'm just going to do like I did last week. I'm not going to read the passage because I'm doing a big bite here. So I'll read each verse as I go and make comment on the sections, because this is divided up nicely into sections as we, again, were asked to remember what the Lord had done. And as I said at the beginning, the dainty of this day is the mercy that we find in verses 38 and 39. You'll recall that in verses 36 and 37, revival quickly cooled. The people were judged by the Lord. They realized it, they repented of their sin, and yet it said their heart was not right with him, there in verse 37. Verse 38, though, don't be alarmed, because verse 38 tells us, "He, being full of compassion, forgave their iniquity and destroyed them not. Yea, many a time turned he his anger away, and did not stir up all his wrath. For he remembered that they were but flesh, a wind that passeth away, and cometh not again." There you have it, friends. There's the mercy of the Lord. Thank God that he remembers that we're flesh, that we're just a wind that passes by, never comes around again. One of the signature words here that we're going to see today is this word remember. You notice there in verse 39 it said, "He remembered that they were but flesh." Do you recall back in the first half of the book, or of the psalm, rather, the psalmist was saying the problem was the people hadn't remembered God's works. Well, here, the Lord doesn't forget. He remembers that we're just flesh. And so his mercy extends to us because of that. And then from verse 40 to verse 44, you'll see again how there's this transgression listed. And how oft did they provoke him in the wilderness and grieve him in the desert. Now that's verse 40. Verse 41, "Yea, they turned back and tempted God and limited the Holy One of Israel." And then verse 42, we have the interplay, this interchange between God remembering and then our remembering. Verse 42 says, "They remembered not his hand." So the fact that they had forgotten played into their transgression. They remembered not his hand, nor the day he had delivered them from the enemy, how he had wrought his signs in Egypt, his wonders in the field of Zoan, and turned the rivers into blood and their floods that they could not drink. Okay, so there is the first sign that God did in Egypt there in verse 44. Now tomorrow, beginning in verse 45, we continue that whole idea of God's works, the Egyptian signs and works, all the way down through verse 51. So we'll look at that tomorrow. I hope you'll join me then on Daily Dose Radio. Hey there, friends. Just wanted to remind you to go out and get yourself a copy of my new book, Christianity to the Life, by Cotton Mather, edited by me, David Smith. You can find it at Amazon. It's a paperback. It's also in Kindle form, so you can get it for your Kindle or you can get it for your library at home. however you'd like to have it. If you do, I really would appreciate if you would write a review after reading it. Let me know what you think. And it's a really good book. It'll encourage your Christian walk with the Lord. So go out and get Christianity to the Life today on Amazon. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. I'm David Smith. The music today has been performed by the Bluegrass Experiment. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time on Daily Dose Radio.